On to the final group in Group H, Portugal, a ninth-ranked team in the world, finished second in their group to Serbia, had to beat Turkey, then North Macedonia, avoided playing Italy. Look, second place in this group gets Brazil. You want to go on and potentially win this group, second place, it's no bueno. Uruguay is also in this group, and they're looking to be a really strong side under Diego Alonso, 7-1-1 in their last 9. Lost four straight in qualifying. Alonso comes in, and then they win 4 straight as well. Valverde, Nunez, plenty of young players that you really like in this Uruguay side. South Korea, 28th ranked team in the world. Remember, last World Cup, no one rated them, just beat Germany. Ho-hum. In that group stage. Didn't advance because they lost to Sweden and Mexico, but they did pull a shock then. And Ghana, the 61st ranked team in the world, finished bottom of their group in the African Cup of Nations. But this side, adding Lamptey and Naki Williams into the team, they've added some more talent than they had during the African Cup of Nations as well. They're the last African side to reach the quarterfinals. Happened in 2010. What happened that year? Luis Suarez penalty shootout is revenge or retribution in the cards in this group. Portugal minus 141 to win, plus 1102 for Ghana. Uruguay at plus 191, plus 1203 for South Korea. We'll start with you, Simon, because this Uruguay side, it jumps off the page for me. They're balanced, maybe a little bit older at center back, and some injuries have added some doubt, but from an attacking and midfield perspective, there's plenty of quality in this Uruguay side.
Yeah, it's an Uruguay side that in the last five or 6 years has kind of grown a midfield. They used to be Godin and Jimenez at the back, Suarez and Cavani up top. But they've really developed in terms of midfield quality. And now you look at this side and say the midfield is probably the strongest area of the field, with the likes of Betancourt, Diaz Carrieta, Valverde in there. They've got a lot of different options. De La Cruz is a good player. Ugarte at Sporting is a good young midfielder. They've got a really, really strong midfield now as well. And that's been the challenge, to kind of evolve the side, keep that defensive strength and develop things. A question as well will be whether Godin plays. Obviously, historically a very important player for Uruguay, but is getting older. I think probably Jimenez and Araujo would be the stronger pairing, but Godin has that experience, that captaincy, which will be interesting whether they go with that or not. Perhaps a little bit light at fullback, but as I say, the midfield has a lot of variety, a lot of quality, and then again an attack. And again, we've seen with this Uruguay side a lot of changes in the tactical approach. The biggest question for me with Uruguay is, are they ready? Because they've brought in a new manager kind of towards the end of qualifying after years and years of a very similar approach. And now they're trying to change the side, trying to have more possession, trying to have more control, trying to press. There's a lot more focus on pressing high. And that's a big shift. And they've changed the side a lot. And obviously when that works, you go, oh, great, there's tactical flexibility, there's depth in quality. But when it doesn't, you say the manager doesn't know what he's doing. He keeps changing the team, you know? So again, like Darwin Núñez, obviously this could be a breakout tournament for him, but he hasn't quite yet established himself as the main man for Uruguay. So there's, with Uruguay, lots and lots of questions. If it works, they could go semi-final. If it doesn't, they could get knocked out in the group. Although I don't think it is the most challenging of groups. Obviously, Portugal, again, another side where the ceiling is high, but there's potential for catastrophe, I think, in that group. I don't know what other people think. But for me, it's a really, really talented Uruguay side that's moving in the right direction quickly. But whether they get there in time for the tournament is still a big question. And I think momentum will be key. If things click, then it could go really well. But I think it may be potentially a year too early for this new coach and this new approach.
Just checking, as of right now, Cristiano Ronaldo hasn't put Portugal or his teammates on blast. Stay tuned. That could happen at any moment. But who should actually be considered favorites to win this group, Jake? Is it Portugal or is it Uruguay?
Yeah, I think Portugal should be favourites, but I think they're a little bit short. I think they're a vulnerable favourite. The reason I say that is because they're in some really strange middle of the road. they seem a little bit lost. They've got a manager whose approach is very defensive. It's perfect for this kind of knockout football. But they've got a young team that wants to play much more expansive. They want to play high press. They want to, dominate possession. They want to play very attack-minded football. And, not even just in forward areas. You think about the fullbacks as well, like Guerrero and Cancelo. Dallo has been playing really well at Manchester United. They're very attack-minded players, whereas they've still got a coach who wants them to be defence first. And then on top of all that, you've got the Ronaldo issue, which is the fact that they probably are a better team without him. But the coach isn't going to drop him. I don't think he's going to be brave enough to drop a national treasure the way that Erik ten Hag has seemingly just pushed Ronaldo to the curb at Manchester United. I think that could be to the detriment. I do think that this Portugal team is better without Ronaldo. But by the same token, who comes in and plays down the middle? Diogo Jota would be the obvious candidate. He's out injured. He can't play there. So it may be a case that, while this is probably Ronaldo's last hurrah, he's their best option to play down the middle. I do think that they are a vulnerable favourite in this group. I do rate Uruguay very highly. I think they could have a really good tournament. I'd take everything Simon said in terms of the potential for it to all go wrong, that it could be a year too early. But all the underlying metrics have been really positive since Diego Alonso took over. And they only had 4 games in World Cup qualifying, but if we do a strength of schedule adjusted rating for those 4 matches, they actually come out as the second best team across that small game stretch of the entire South American qualifying, ahead of Argentina. Now, I'm not saying that they're a better team than Argentina, because obviously it's a small sample there, but that kind of shows you that the positive turnaround. I think before the managerial change was made, they actually ranked as, I think it was the 7th or 8th best team in South American qualifying based on the underlying metrics. So there's a lot to like about Uruguay. I really like the young crop of players. I like the spine. I make them a bet to win the group at plus 191. I think they should be a little bit shorter, partly because I think Portugal are too short, but also I think because South Korea and Ghana should be bigger really to win this group. Because I think there's a bit of a gulf between those two and the other two.
If Cristiano Ronaldo scores, he'll be the first player to score in 5 World Cups. Does he do it, Andrew? And what does that mean for Portugal in this group?
He might do, because, as we've said, Ghana and South Korea aren't that strong. So there's every chance that he might. But I can't really add too much to the other guys. Uruguay to top the group was going to be my suggestion as well. I think Portugal, as Jake said, sort of something of a risky favourite there. I think Uruguay will probably top this group, and I like the look of Ghana under 2.5 points at plus 102, because they had a bad Cup of Nations, as you mentioned. They lost 4-1 to Japan in June, and I'm just not sure they can compete with the other teams in this group. But it looks like we're all on the sort of Uruguay train possibly to top this one.
Well, I might be the exception. I think that, look, Fernando Santos is not sexy football. It's not progressive, but they find a way to get the job done. Diego Costa, like this goalkeeper, is very, very good. Could be the difference. Uruguay doesn't really have an established number 1 goalkeeper in their team. I think that is a question mark for that side. And remember, Portugal lost to Uruguay 2-1 at the last World Cup in the knockout phase. So maybe a little bit of retribution there as well. Just have enough time. We want to go into sorry, is there anything you guys want to add there?
I was just going to say, like, Portugal generally haven't been very good in group stages recently. They won when they won the Euros. I think they drew the 3 group games. They didn't win a single match and got through as the 3rd place team. And at the last World Cup, I think they finished 2nd behind Spain. So that maybe they could qualify. And like I said, the football that Santos likes to play is it matches the knockout kind of style very well. But unfortunately, in the group stage, it's not knockout. They have to go and try and win matches, and I think that could be maybe to their detriment in this group. They maybe draw 2 and win 1, and slip up against South Korea or Ghana. But yeah, I do think Uruguay are the bet. I think there's too many question marks for me around this Portugal team, and for them to be that short in the market.
Simon, before we move on, I have to ask you: 2nd place in this group looks to get Brazil. Who would Brazil prefer to play? Would it be Portugal or would it be Uruguay?
Well, look, Uruguay are always tough, but Brazil know Uruguay, right? So I think Brazil would probably prefer to play Uruguay, just because It's the unknown with Portugal, and it's a European side. Brazil know they're better. Now we'll see, because Uruguay again in a one-off game with the thing as well with Uruguay, just to move on, is they have these old guys who are hanging around, and they have these young guys. And in many sides that would be a problem, but this is Uruguay. Like the team, the spirit in the camp, the unity, the putting the national team first is stronger in Uruguay than any other part of the world. So Uruguay are going to be tough, and they're going to get the most of what they have, I think, as a group. But yeah, I think Brazil would probably prefer to play Uruguay just because they know what they're going to get, and they've beaten them, and they finished comfortably above in South America. So that's probably what I think they prefer.
The stakes incredibly high in Group H.